a global fascist agenda. It's a global fascist agenda. It's a global fascist agenda.
How I Would Survive an Overpopulation Apocalypse If I Was a Super Rich Psychopathic Banker by Jason Sane.
Are we filming right now? Oops. Hello folks. Today we're going to get personal. In this episode I'll be discussing how I would survive an overpopulation apocalypse if I was a super rich psychopathic banker. It's a pretty serious subject, so I guess I'll have to put on my superhero suit. Why does that always happen when I try that? It never works out right. Well, since this is such a pressing issue, I guess I'll have to draw a few cartoons so that stupid people won't fall asleep before the video's over.
Jason's answer machine, what I'm doing right now, my sound don't see. I can't pick up the phone right now, just leave a message and I'll tell you how. Leave your number and your name at the beat. Don't be nasty, don't be a thief. If I don't call after one more week, no, it's not the panic, no, it's not the bleed. I'm a real busy guy cause I'm so fly. If you don't reach me, try. Don't run on and don't be a creep. And if you annoy me, then I'll say.
If you're like most people, then if you heard 10 years ago that by 2020 overpopulation would deplete the world's resources and there would be complete bedlam and people would be eating each other, you probably tried to put it out of your mind. Even if you were the average psychopath, there was nothing you could do to stop it or change the outcome in any way, so why bother? If you were rich, maybe you planned ahead, built an underground bunker and stocked up on canned and freeze-dried food. However, if you were one of these super rich bankers who send the stock market reeling, if he even so much as sneezes or breaks wind, then you'd have been in a position to make plans for the world which might save you and your family from what, for most people on Earth, would be the end of the world. Even if the news that overpopulation would cause our demise was complete hogwash, if you had the funds, you'd probably use them so that you'd be prepared when the time came. If you just so happened to also be a complete psychopath, then you could really set up the world stage in your favor. In this video, we'll assume that you are both insanely rich and a sociopath, which is not entirely unrealistic. Because to create a big business, you need lots of employees. And to be a competitive business, that means screwing most of them over. So in this case, it's definitely an advantage to be low on scruples. If you knew the world was going to end at some point 10 to 50 years in the future, you would have two choices. One, you could leave Earth and set up base on the Moon or Mars and wait until the radioactivity on Earth cleared and most of humanity had eliminated itself. Then you could come down from space and lord it over the cavemen like some kind of extraterrestrial god king. There's a major problem with this strategy, however. Space is an incredibly dangerous place. When your equipment breaks down, it isn't like you can just take your spaceship to the local mechanic. Two, your other option would be to burrow deep under the Earth and create an immense bunker or system of bunkers where radioactivity and hungry mutant cavemen wouldn't be able to find you. If I was a super rich psychopathic banker, I'd probably go with option 2. My next problem would be figuring out how to keep the starving masses from sniffing out my bunker and eating myself and my family. I'd want to find some way to keep these two-legged animals penned up so they would eat each other instead of me or my progeny. That way, I'd also be able to use them for organ harvesting or as an emergency food source. The problem is, I'm just an entrepreneur. I don't have my own army. However, I'm very rich and I have a frightening amount of control over the political arena. What politician would dare defy me when, with a click of a button, I can make nations go to war? However, even with all the armies and paid mercenaries in the world, I wouldn't be able to keep humanity locked down for long, not without their consent, that is. So first, I'd start by dumbing down the masses. I'd exercise my influence over television broadcasts, popular music, and movies. More importantly, I'd get humanity completely hooked on the internet so that a huge portion of each person's interpersonal communication would take place on a medium I could completely control and manipulate. In short, I would use artificial intelligence to completely control each person's perception of reality in a way that served my ultimate objective. I would want people to have complete faith in authority and what they hear from the major news outlets I had previously bought out. With humanity's wits so thoroughly dimmed, now all I would need is a reason for the masses to lock themselves up indefinitely. Humanity must be made to fear freedom and persecute anyone who dares try to escape. Religion wouldn't work because there are too many different faiths which disagree with one another. Politics has a similar problem. No, I'd need a scientific reason to convince people to self-isolate. Well, a virus would work great for that. After all, anyone can get sick. Plus, viruses are always mutating, so there would always be a new strain to contend with. There's just one problem. Even if I had a vaccine for such a virus, if it mutated, my family or I might catch it. No, that wouldn't do. The virus couldn't be more dangerous than the flu. Wait, that's it. I don't even have to manufacture a new virus. I'll just pay off a bunch of doctors to say that a new strain of the common cold or the flu is somehow totally new and different and much more dangerous than the flu. Never mind that lots of people die from the flu and pneumonia. When I have the media tell people how many people are dying from this new, mysterious, deadly pathogen, they'll never even bother to actually look at the figures and compare this new virus's kill rate to that of the flu. There will be so many people that will convince themselves that they're dying that power of suggestion alone will make it come true. Everyone with a cold will rush to the ER. Hospitals will be swamped. The ambulances will all be tied up from all the 911 calls, and military vehicles and trucks will have to be called in to remove the bodies from the hospitals. Just imagine how that would look on the news. Of course, I would have thought ahead. I would have stockpiled medical masks, ventilators, hand sanitizer, and toilet paper, so there would be a shortage. Infections would increase dramatically. Panic would explode through the world exponentially. Politicians would have to address these fears or face not being re-elected. Politicians would lock down every state in every country in an indefinite quarantine. Like the war on terror, the war on the common cold would never end. Every non-essential business would be closed. Thus, there would be no public restrooms available to wash your hands before you eat. The homeless would crap in the streets. Infections and deaths would skyrocket. Of course, there would be a small percentage of the people who could think analytically, who would compare the death rates from my new virus to that of the flu. These people could convince others to stage a revolt. So I'd create something called social distancing, which would make it uncool or even prohibited to congregate and socialize. This way, even if a vaccine for the virus was found, new strains of the virus would keep increasing the panic until martial law would become an everyday fact of life. Cities and states would become permanently isolated and cut off from one another. Travel between them forbidden. More and more people would be forbidden to work, since if they worked, they might spread the virus. Eventually, only the military would work to secure city borders. The people in the cities would become destitute and demoralized, and thus unable to form a resistance. They would be starving and weak. At the same time, I'd begin a massive layoff of military personnel. I'd replace them with cheetah robots and other artificially intelligent, autonomous warbots. By the time the people in the military caught wind of what was going on, there would be few soldiers to combat my cheetahs. At this point, all the humans, including the military personnel, would be herded into concentration camps. The cheetahs and autonomous aerial drones would hunt down those who tried to escape and those who tried to revolt. Then, with humanity on lockdown, I'd slaughter all but the most healthy humans. Then, I'd use the rest for organ harvesting. The end. I hope you liked my story. I hope it gives you nightmares tonight. Thanks for watching. It's a global fascist agenda. It's a global fascist agenda. It's a global fascist agenda.